betrayed you, they would have killed us both!
I'd rather die than live knowing I loved a loose woman.
Somewhere on the outskirts of Kandahar, in an abandoned house with cracked walls, the night holds its breath. Here, the fate of a platoon and 2 hearts is being decided. Before continuing, press subscribe and the bell so you don't miss the next chapters. The roar of explosions tears the desert's night silence like a giant bell struck inside a chest. Captain Ryan McNeil's heart hammers in his throat, but he hangs on the edge of control. Cool blood isn't a feeling right now, it's a task order. Bang, another blast flips clods of dry earth into the air and peppers helmets and bare faces. They're pressed to the cracked clay wall of an abandoned house, one wall between them and a drop into nothing. Got him it, we're pinned. Sergeant David Torres barks through the shrieking storm of bullets, checking the magazine on his M4 as if more than the weapon depended on it, as if the air itself did. David is broad-shouldered, with a tight beard and eyes that catch small details under fire. He stays clear when others spin out. His hand shakes now, but he refuses to let panic tear through. Ryan edges a look past the wall. Muzzle flashes strobe in the dark. The enemy dug in on both sides of the narrow street like snakes in a kill box. Their Omega team stumbled into a trap in a tiny Afghan hamlet. The air smells of smoke, powder, and something like treacherous loss of control. Hours earlier, they walked with the element of surprise, now that surprise has turned into their threat. A thought that steals his breath. How did they know? Cuts through Ryan's focus like a round. He runs the fast math. Map, route, source. Layla. Her name flickers in memory, sweet with trust and bitter with suspicion at once. RPG, Maxwell's shout slices the night. A heartbeat later, a bright comet of a rocket-propelled grenade rips the dark. The wall above Ryan goes to dust and fragments. The world flips. He hits his back. A bell rings in his ears, voices turn to cotton, the visible world to smear. For a moment the night goes quiet, leaving only a dull insect buzz in his temples. Ryan braces on his elbows, fighting through the grit. Dirt is bitter on his tongue. Torres groans beside him, smashed against the wall, his ears bloodied by shrapnel, eyes wide but still in focus. McNeil crawls to him, grabs his plate carrier strap, and drags him flatter. Not for heroics, but because survival has to be a technique. "You in one piece," Ryan yells, barely hearing his own voice, but needing to be heard. "Yeah, a little stunned," Torres answers, wincing as he touches his ear. There's iron in his steadiness. He won't fold, though every move is a measured hurt. When the gunfire tumbles back in, Ryan spots Connors and Wilson firing short bursts over the rubble. Connors lean, with boat-steady eyes that never miss an aim. Wilson a quiet giant with a quiet voice and explosive precision. They rake every yard of the street, buying seconds. Ryan knows they have to break out while their legs still listen. Every extra second is a chance to die. He reaches for the radio, thumbs the headset. "Thunder 1 copy, we are calling for support," he shouts. Static answers. The net is jammed or the set got wrecked in the blast. Behind them, dark alleys of mud houses cut off for retreat. Ahead, a narrow street punched full of bullet bites. Sweat slides under his helmet, mudding with dust. Adrenaline and fear hum together, making a cold space in his chest. Ryan runs routes and options. Distraction, a sidestep rush, stun grenades, anything to shear the enemy's sightline, or at least scatter their aim. He sees Layla in flashback, not a far figure, but the woman who handed over coordinates. She was slight, sharp-eyed, with a scar on her right cheek that made her smile look more serious. She spoke decisively. Her tone left no room for doubt. Their commander sits there. Ryan believed her. He'd always trusted how obvious her read of the ground seemed. Now it's a mortal price question. Was that trust a mistake? Beside him, Maxwell pops a flashbang loose, eyes like mirrors. Young, but a spine that hardened fast in war. He nods at Ryan, a wordless order. When chance screams, you hit. The air carries that sick certainty that every step is a dice roll with your friends' lives on the table. Ryan breathes big. He has a few seconds of clarity. If there's a timeline, it's now. He whispers a short plan, barely words. just loud enough for the sergeant. Distract by fire, push two through the window rush, the rubble used the dirt for cover. Tension coils in his hands and shoulders like a spring. On three, he whispers. Fire, run, cover. Their eyes meet as if they've agreed not on heroics, but on the technique of staying alive. In this beat, none of them is just a soldier. Each is a concentrated while trying to delay death for one more minute. The next blast lands closer. Light in Ryan's eyes turns crystal and shifting. He counts under his breath 1, 2, 3, and in one rip everything goes. Grenades sail, rounds break into a short avalanche, and they surge forward, sliding low, scraping cover out of junk. Every yard is hysterical and precious. Rounds slit the air, so close the heat kisses skin. Connors drops, then claws back up. Wilson shouts something, the words lost in flame. Torres hauls a wounded man, the heart in his eyes hard as stone. Ryan knows this isn't the end. It's just another act in a long night with life on the line. As explosions cut the dark and their hearts still beat in their chests, they'll keep moving not because they're storybook heroes, but because there isn't any other choice. A day earlier, the evening had been strangely quiet. In the half-lit room of the Kandahar forward base, old fans throbbed, pushing the hot, almost thick air. The walls smelled of dust and oil, the maps of fatigue. Ryan McNeil hunched over satellite photos, tracing mountain cuts with a finger, hunting a route for the morning raid. His eyes burned from lost sleep. Caffeine and strain had long since turned into part of his body. Someone came up softly behind him, and warm, slender fingers slid over his eyes. "Guess who?" A familiar voice whispered soft, with a slight accent. McNeil smiled the first clean smile he'd managed in days. "Layla," he said, lowering her hands. She stood before him in a dark green scarf draped over her shoulders, sparks in her deep brown eyes. Even in simple field clothes, she carried an easy grace nobody else had here, among dust and death. "You're not supposed to be in here this late," he said quietly, without edge. Layla lifted a shoulder like it was nothing. Her gaze skimmed the map on the table, and something flickered in her eyes for an instant. Worry, or the weight of a choice. "I have news, and I thought you'd want to hear it first." Ryan straightened, nodding to the chair. "What happened?" She leaned over the map, her fingers gliding over the paper. "There's intel on a Taliban commander," she said, almost a whisper. "Tomorrow he'll be here." Her nails stopped on a tiny, nameless point among desert hills. Ryan raised a brow. Intel hadn't flagged anything there. "Source?" His voice went firm, not cold. Layla lowered her eyes, swallowed. The air seemed to get heavier. "My people. They heard it. This is a chance, Ryan. His security will be minimal." McNeil drew a deeper breath, trying to mask how fast his heart had jumped. If true, this could be a break. She stood close. She smelled like dust, jasmine, and danger. "Is it solid?" he asked, already knowing he'd trust her anyway. She met his look direct, certain. "Yes, but there isn't much time. At first light, or he's gone." Ryan studied the map one more minute, routes computing in silence. Then he laid his hand over hers. "Thank you," he said softly. "You're saving us." For a moment her face gentled. Layla looked up, and in her gaze was something he couldn't decode. Fear, regret, care. She touched his cheek, her palm warm and trembly. "Just come back alive, okay?" It didn't sound like a request, it sounded like goodbye. Ryan leaned closer, brushed aside a strand that had escaped her scarf, and, holding her eyes, said, "I promise." But even then, something moved under his ribs, a thin chill on his skin, an intuition whispering before the first grenade ever blew. He felt her quickened breath on his neck, her hot lips on his chest. Her skin was silk under his hand, every curve of her body a perfect line. In the room's half-dark, they made love slow and fierce, forgetting the world. Layla moaned his name, nails digging his back as the wave took them both. For a heartbeat, there was no war, just her and him, two bodies entwined and two souls braided. That night, Ryan didn't let Layla go from his arms. Her body trembled, pressing to him under the thin blanket, and the desert night air rustled at the window. Somewhere out in the dark, a dog barked, a strange sound inside the hush, wrapping the two of them. She lifted her head and looked into his eyes. There was something unsayable there, as if she wanted to speak more and held herself back. "Why are you looking at me like that?" he whispered, touching her face. "Because I don't know when I'll see you again," she answered softly. Her fingers slid along his neck and jaw and came to rest on his chest. He took her hand, closed it in his firm but gentle. Their movements were quiet, steady, like time itself had stopped. She nestled closer. Her breath grazed his skin. Ryan closed his eyes for a moment. He forgot that war lay outside these walls. There was only her warmth, the jasmine in her hair, and the rhythm of a heart beating in time with his. "Ryan," she whispered. "I'm here," he answered, brow to brow. "You're with me." She smiled lightly through tears. Her lips brushed his a touch deeper than any words. "Don't promise me anything," she said quietly. "Just live." He didn't answer at once. He threaded his fingers through her night-black hair and breathed in its scent. "When this is over," he said after a long pause, "I'll take you away from here, to the ocean. You'll see it for real, without edges." She didn't look at him, only squeezed his hand and closed her eyes. A tear flashed on her cheek. "Just come back," she whispered. "Promise only that." Ryan kissed her shoulder. "I'll come back," he said. "I promised." Somewhere a generator rumbled to life and the light flickered. She fell asleep on his chest, and he stared into the dark a long time, unable to shake the sense that this calm was the breath before the storm. He felt her quickened breath on his neck, her hot lips on his chest. Her skin was silk under his hand, every curve of her body a perfect line. In the room's half dark, they made love slow and fierce, forgetting the world. Layla moaned his name, nails digging his back as the wave took them both. For a heartbeat, there was no war, just her and him, two bodies entwined and two souls braided. A hard blow to his back yanks Ryan to the present. He flinches as the plate bites his ribs. It's Connor's, fear and dust twisting his face, grabbing Ryan's vest and yelling into his ear through the blasts. "Cap, what's the play? They're flanking right." Ryan blinks off the stuttering memory, her face, her touch, that night on base. Now the pieces lock into a grim picture. This wasn't chance. They knew where Omega would be. Someone spilled the route. And he knows who. Cold sweat traces his spine. "Hold the line," he roars. "Don't let them roll our rear." He pushes his rifle out, sweeps short bursts into the dark. Flashes answer from both sides. The air whines with rounds. Close by, bullets chew the clay dust showers his neck and cakes to sweat. Son of a, Ryan grinds his teeth. He couldn't say who the curse is for the enemy or her. A whistle, then a round tears the air at his temple. He ducks hard. A scream behind him. Maxwell is hit. Wilson's voice breaks ragged. Ryan turns. Maxwell's on his back, hands clamped to his gut. Blood slides through his fingers, dark and slick. The kid's face is paler than sand. "Hold it together," the captain shouts. "Torres, drag him. Connors, Wilson left side fire, give us cover." Torres, swaying, crawls to Maxwell, hauls him under the arm, slings the kid's arm across his own shoulders. Ryan throws more bursts aimless, just to keep heads down. The air throbs with blasts. Clay walls slough like old paper. Connors is shouting lost under the heavy guns. Ryan just nods. He has 2 magazines left. His brain logs it coldly. 5 men, 1 wounded line, no comms. "Forward, move," he growls, surging up and spraying over the wreckage. They sprint the narrow lane, hugging walls like shorelines. Sand spits in their faces. On the left, a hard torrent. Connors and Wilson running hot at the edge, holding the push. Bullets snarl, shredding the night. Ahead is a bend, and beyond it, open ground. Ryan remembers, that's the pickup point. That's their shot. The world breaks into chaos. A round slams, his plate heavy and stunning, knocking McNeil down. He skids in the sand, breath gone. The chest plate cracked, but held. Pain razors his ribs. He rises anyway. It's fine. Breathe, the thought flashes. Torres staggers ahead, humping Maxwell, who barely moves. Ryan crawls up. Helps together, they move in cadence, yard by yard, one body. A harsh cry behind. Connors, Wilson's voice, raw. Ryan turns in time to see Connors drop like a puppet with cut strings. He hits the dust. No motion, no cry, only a dark stain spreading. Connors rips out of Ryan, but he already knows it's too late. Jaw locked, the captain raises his rifle and rips a long answer. The stock punishes his shoulder, brass reins. Fury and helplessness fuse into a single savage drive. "Wilson, fall back," he shouts. Wilson slashes a glance at Connors's body and, teeth clenched, pulls back. "There are too damn many," he rasps. The alley opens into a small square, sand and fragments. The air is hot as iron, and then the sound they've begged for. A hum, distant first, then closer, stronger, alive a helicopter. The headset cracks back to life. "Omega, this is Thunder 1. We have eyes on. Hold your position." Ryan feels the ground thrum. Out of the black, a big shape swells a CH-47 Chinook. Its rotors carve the night, and a sandstorm rockets upward. A blink from the side ramp, a gun opens hard, combing the enemy's pits. Sand, smoke, fire, everything whirls into a blinding gyre. "Move!" Ryan yells, bracing Torres. They run, the sand burning underfoot, lungs clawed by dust. Silhouettes at the ramp hands stretching for them, voices calling. Come on, Captain," the medic shouts, grabbing Maxwell. Torres heaves him inside. Ryan wheels, searching for Wilson. He's still firing behind them, covering the break. "Wilson, now," Ryan growls, shooting over his shoulder. Wilson bolts, leaps to the ramp, and in that same instant, a white-hot punch takes Ryan's shoulder. The shock staggers him, the world goes white with pain. A bullet. He folds to a knee, blood flooding his sleeve. Torres catches him by the loadout and drags him in with a shout. The doors slam. Inside the Chinook, the air is engine roar and the stink of burn. The medic's already crushing a dressing to his shoulder. Torres is yelling something, but Ryan hears only the low thunder in his head. Through the open ramp, he watches the village dropping away tiny lights, gun flashes, dark figures scattering under the rotor storm. All of it stays there. Ryan lies on the cold metal deck, breathing hard. Wind hits his face. Torres leans over him, his eyes red, from dust or fury. "Hold on, Captain. We've got you. We're out," he says. Ryan doesn't answer. He stares at the ceiling where the spots from the lights flicker, and he thinks of only one name, Layla. Anger and hurt knot in his chest. Not from the wound, from knowing. She knew. The pain in his shot shoulder has gone dull and deep, a constant throb like the pulse of memory itself. The medics did what they could, washed it, bandaged it, hit him with morphine. Each heartbeat still reminds him he's alive and far from whole. The field hospital ward drowns in weak yellow light. The air smells of antiseptic, blood, and smoke the scent of battle that won't rinse off skin or brain. Through a thin partition come muffled medic voices, cries, clipped orders, metal clatter. They're fighting for Maxwell. Ryan sits on the cot, elbows on knees, head bowed. His gaze is unfixed, seeing without looking. The buzz in his ears, the hollow in his chest. Morphine softens the pain, not the quiet. Faces spin like shrapnel in his mind. Torres, Wilson, dead Connors, and her. Layla. Her last glance over her shoulder. The faint tear she didn't wipe. Once that seemed tender. Now it feels like farewell. The door scrapes. Metal cuts the silence, and Ryan lifts his head slow. In the doorway stands Colonel Richardson, tall, gray, with the same stone-cut features that never changed from Iraq to now. His face is slicked with sweat and fatigue. His uniform is dust-stained. His eyes are cold, but there's sympathy in them he won't show in words. "Rest, Captain McNeil," he says quietly as he steps in. The voice is even, dull as a shot into concrete. Ryan raises his head. His own voice is a well-deep rasp. "Sir, the men." The colonel stops at the cot, looks to the floor, then into Ryan's eyes. Maxwell is critical. Surgery's working, but the odds aren't good. A beat. Tora's and Wilson light wounds stable. Richardson exhales, jaw tightens. And Connors, a short pause, then, without ceremony, "I'm sorry, Captain. He was killed in action. Brave." Ryan turns away. His fists tremble, blood freckles his bandage. No tears, just anger, dark and deep. "They were waiting for us, sir," he says low. "It was a setup, not a fluke." Richardson nods. "We've confirmed it." He pulls a tablet from his pocket, glances down. "One of the captured fighters talked. They were handed your route the day before the op. Someone leaked it." He looks straight at Ryan. "Your informant is now wanted." But, a clipped pause, it appears she's gone. The word informant in his mouth sounds like a curse. Ryan feels something break loose in his chest. His hand knots into a fist pain, and gauze be damned. Blood seeps through the gauze. Her face in his head. Her hands. Her voice. And now emptiness. "Sir, let me—" he starts, but Richardson lifts a hand, cutting him off. "No." The voice hardens. "It's counterintelligence now. If she's a double, they'll find her. And you are not the one to hunt her, Captain." Silence. Only the lamp's insect buzz. The colonel looks at him for a moment, cold, not unkind. He sets a heavy hand on Ryan's good shoulder. "Rest. That's an order. You did everything you could." A beat. And more than most could. He moves for the door. "When you're up, write the report. Until then, no freelance moves. Clear?" "Yes, sir," Ryan breathes. Richardson nods and leaves. The door clicks. Again, only the lamps whine and the muffled voices of doctors. Ryan sits staring at the wall. One word loops in his head. Gone. No, not just gone. She ran. He looks down at his palm and squeezes. The shoulder throbs again, but he doesn't feel it. Inside is a different wound. Deeper. The kind that doesn't close. Desert sand, blood on his hands, her voice in memory. He whispers, almost airless, "I'll find you, Layla." The yellow light sways, throwing a long shadow on the wall, the shadow of a man who doesn't yet know there will be not only a war ahead, but a personal hunt. The night stretched without end. It hung over the base, heavy and starless, as if the desert itself had held its breath. Ryan sat on a bunk in the barracks, staring into the dark, and the silence pressed harder than the pain in his shoulder. They'd released him from the hospital hours ago. The doctors insisted he rest. There was no rest to be had. The same frames looped in his head shouts, fire, blood on his hands, and that final instant when he saw Connors fall into the dust. Then Layla, her face, her words, her promises. He tried to push her out of his mind, and the harder he tried, the brighter she burned. Around midnight, he broke. He pulled on his vest, took his Beretta and a small flashlight. His movements were steady, careful, cold the motions of a hunter. Without a word to the duty man, he slipped through the checkpoint, quiet, dark, the sentries half asleep. Then an unmarked Jeep behind the hangar. The engine coughed low, and Ryan rolled into the night. Kandahar's streets at that hour were empty. The asphalt still breathed the day's heat. The air shimmered over the mud brick roofs. Narrow lanes, black building silhouettes, and distant dogs, everything looked like a dream about to turn nightmare. He knew where to go. A house on the edge of town where Layla lived with her uncle. She'd mentioned him often, an old mullah who'd survived 3 wars and barely walked after a wound. "He doesn't like Americans," she'd say with a smile, "but he loves cardamom tea and silence. We're alike." She never spoke of her parents, only once, when Ryan, holding her after a night raid, had asked, "And your family?" She'd gone quiet a few seconds, then said softly, "I had a family. War took what was left." After that, he didn't ask. Now, driving through the dark, those words sounded different. Maybe a lie. Maybe half the truth. Maybe a confession he failed to hear. His heart beat low and heavy, like a motor living under his skin. What do I do when I find her? The question came again and again. There was no answer. Look in her eyes and ask, why? Or, past sentence. The image Rose Connors torn open by the blast, Maxwell bleeding out, and in all of it her. Her smile, her voice, her promise you'll come back. Ryan squeezed the wheel until his knuckles blanched. A few blocks shy, he killed the engine. He'd walk the rest. The dark was thicker here, the streets emptied out, only the wind fingering trash along fences. He didn't use the light, moved slow, sliding from wall shadow to wall shadow. He knew the house at once. Low, old, with flaking walls and slit windows. Once cozy, now grim like a neglected memory. The porch was the same, an old clay jug she used as a vase, a few dry twigs. His chest tightened when he saw a weak glow from her room's window. Dim, yellow, like a memory. Ryan stepped closer, silent. The door was unlocked that raised his hackles. He pressed gently, the hinges complained, a sound louder than a blast. Inside half-dark, dust, old wood. He drew the pistol, checked the slide. Silence. Farther in a whisper, a woman's voice, low and shaken. Layla. He slid along the wall, moving as on an op. Slow, careful, step by step. The corridor was narrow. His boots barely rustled. Light spilled from a door left ajar, a thin band across the floorboards. Layla rushed about the room by the tremble of a kerosene lamp. The flame jittered, throwing torn wing shadows on the walls. She crammed things into a small pack, some bills, documents, a worn silver locket. Her hands shook, lips quivered, breath came short. On the floor her scarf lay cast aside, black hair down over her shoulders, stuck to tear-wet cheeks. She spoke to herself in a hush, fast and broken, as if trying to convince her own heart. I had to. Her shoulders jerked when she snatched another thing from the table and froze. Don't move. The voice came from the dark, rough and cold. She gasped and turned slowly. Her eyes widened when she saw him, a shape in shadow, the barrel trained on her heart. For a moment the air stopped. Ryan, she breathed, the bundle slipping from her hands and thumping softly to the floor. You're alive. Lamplight skated across his face, pale, burnt out, carved hard as stone. His eyes were steel cold. A crooked smile. Disappointed. His voice was low, dull, dangerous. Layla shook her head, tears spilling. No, I prayed you'd live. She took a step toward him, hand trembling out, and he snapped the pistol up. Stop. One more step and I fire. She froze under the aim. A few yards between them, and more distance there than in the whole desert before. Ryan drags air into his lungs. Blood drums in his temples. Two Lilas smear in his sight, the one who laughed under the stars, and this one pale, guilty, foreign. His fingers clamp the grip until the knuckles go white. Why, Layla? His voice shakes, fury boiling underneath. For God's sake, why did you do it? Who the hell are you? Her lips quiver. She edges back half a step, drops her gaze. They gave me no choice, she whispers. No choice? Ryan explodes, stepping in. My unit walked into a kill zone. Connors is dead. Maxwell is dying because of you, and you say no choice? His voice hits like a strike. The room smells like powder from memory, not the gun. Layla covers her face, her voice breaking into sobs. They found out about me, that I work with you. They took my uncle. Said if I didn't draw you in, they'd kill him. And me, I couldn't. She sinks to her knees under the weight of her own words. Her shoulders shake. Speech spills like water from a cracked jar. I tried to warn you. I thought you'd sense something was wrong. Ryan stands like a statue. The shadow of his pistol wavers across her face. His voice is thin, nearly soundless. So it was. All a lie. Every kiss. Every I believe in you. She lifts her head. Her eyes are red and wet. No, she whispers. No, Ryan. What was between us was real. I loved you. I still do. She steps closer, slow and careful, as if touching the line between life and death. She raises a trembling hand and lays it against the muzzle. Cold steel, hot skin. "I'm not making excuses," she says softly. "I only wanted you to live, even if I didn't." He doesn't move. His breath shortens, his eyes burn. "You don't get to decide who lives and who dies," he says, voice gone dull and cracked. "Not after what I saw today." Her hand slides down to his wrist. "I know," she breathes, "and if you must do it, I won't run." Her face is wet, worn, but calm. No fear in her eyes, only sorrow and something he can't bear, love. His hand trembles, his finger on the trigger. Silence deepens until he can hear lamp oil drip. A dog barks somewhere in the dark outside. He stares at her. She stares back. Two truths, two shadows, two hearts beating together and tearing each other apart. Ryan inhales, hard enough to hurt. His finger quivers on the trigger, and the world seems to hang between two breaths. Heavy footsteps pound up the stairs, short, decisive, making the wood complain. Someone is coming fast, 2 steps at a time. Ryan flicks his eyes that way for a fraction. It's enough. Layla shoves the barrel aside. The shot cracks. The round rips a bite from the clay wall, dust showers, the lamp leaps, shatters. Flame flares, washing both faces in blood-orange light. Layla lunges for the window, sliding almost weightless, catches the frame. Ryan snaps back, his heart a hammer. "Not letting you go," he rasps, grabbing her wrist just as she swings over the sill. Her eyes are blown wide. The firelight turns her pupils to ink. "Let go," she cries, smashing his wounded shoulder. Pain knifes him. He loses breath, clenches his teeth, his grip slackening for an instant. Enough. She tears free. Her body vanishes into the night. A dull thud lands a beat later. "Damn it," Ryan bolts after her. Glass crunches under his boots. He jumps. Sand takes him soft. Pain rings through his body. The air is heavy and hot. Night smells of dust and sweat. He sights her sprinting the alley fast, but with a hitch. Her silhouette, hair wild, flickers in shadow. Ryan pushes up, gives chase. She glances back, fear, despair, guilt on her face. He reaches her in a few strides, snatches her shoulders, drives her down. They hit the sand. A soft thump, a stifled cry. Layla fights to shove him off. He's stronger, even wounded. He rolls her onto her back, pins her with a knee, wrenches an arm behind her. Her breath is ragged and scared. His is hoarse and furious. Eye to eye. She's crying. He's on fire. Sand clings to her skin. Her cheeks are streaked with tears and grit. Ryan levels the pistol at her forehead. His hand shakes, but doesn't lower. "This is the end," he says, breathing hard. The voice is cracked and raw. "There's nowhere left to go." She doesn't look away. Her eyes are wide and calm. No fear, only quiet and acceptance. She gives the faintest human, broken smile. "Do it," she whispers. "It will be easier for you and for me." Her voice chills his blood. Ryan stops breathing. His finger trembles on the trigger. Noise roars in his skull. His heartbeat hammers in his temples. Frames strobe like grenade flashes. Her smile. Her hands on his chest. A promise to return. Connors's scream. Dust, blood, fire. "Don't make me," he whispers, not sure if he's talking to her or himself. Layla closes her eyes. A tear slips along her temple. Her lips barely move. "Forgive me." Silence. Only their breaths. Only blood humming in his ears. And then shouts. "Captain, lower the weapon." Flashlights knife the dark. At the alley's mouth, silhouettes in uniform, rifles up. Ryan blinks as if surfacing. His hand sinks. His finger eases off the trigger. "Captain, let her go," the voice repeats clear, commanding. He rises slow, like an old man, clutching his shoulder. Sand pours from his hands. He feels the tremor in his fingers. 2 counterintel men rush in, wrench Layla's arms, lock cuffs on. She doesn't fight, doesn't raise her head. When they set her on her feet, she lifts her gaze straight into his. There's no excuse in it, only longing, and something that hurts worse than a bullet. "I'm sorry," she mouths. They lead her to the truck. Beams carve the night, dust boils in plumes. He watches her disappear into the glare, hears the door slam, the engine blend into the wind. His shoulder bleeds again, but he doesn't feel pain. He doesn't feel anything, just a hollow, charred dead space like after a blast. A familiar sergeant steps up behind him, short, worn, gray at the temples. He sets a hand on Ryan's shoulder. "Let's go, Captain. Nothing more you can do here." Ryan nods. No words. His lips are as dry as dust. He climbs in. The door bangs. The window is cracked, and night chill threads through. Dawn thins the east, a gray ribbon over the roofs. A new day. 3 weeks later. The Kandahar base is spinning up for rotation. Dust storms paint everything in a fine coat. Even the sky looks washed out. Ryan sits by an old fence, turning a metal tag in his hand. Connors, D. He rolls it between his fingers and listens to rotors thumping somewhere behind another bird lifting. His shoulder has knit, but the arm still balks. That isn't the thing that matters. He just sits and stares where desert meets sky. Sergeant Torres passes and tosses him a glance, says nothing. Everyone knows best to leave Ryan be. Somewhere in his pocket lies a letter-size report. Subject L. Raman. Transferred for interrogation. Location. Classified. He hasn't opened it. He won't. A gust lifts sand. Ryan closes his eyes. For a heartbeat, he thinks he hears her voice, soft and warm, from another life. "Just come back alive, okay?" He smiles for the first time in a long time. Bitter, but real. He tightens his fingers on the tag and stands. Ahead another tasking, another war, another day. But somewhere in a dark corner of his soul lives, the memory of that night, that kerosene lamp, the woman he loved and couldn't save from the enemy or from himself. And when the Chinook's engines rumble again, Ryan McNeil looks to the distance and thinks. In war, there are always two targets, the enemy and the heart. And the second one is always the first to fall. Hit like, and don't forget to subscribe. The next story will be even more intense. But if you are under 18, don't even think about clicking next.